So the first thing I wanted to talk about is what would your teammates, organization say about you, right? So if there might be a couple things repetitive and you can just shut it down at that point. But like, so the first thing was, and there's no particular order. Um, it would be he competed. I think that's really important. I mean, there's guys that kind of play hard and they only compete when they feel it's maybe easier to compete or when um, it's like Gordon Ryan in his first fight. He's not really competing that first fight. He's just warming up. So if you're playing an inferior opponent or whatever, like is that when you compete, or do you do it when it's hard? So what I mean by that also is in practice, it's in games, off ice. So I'm talking like my teammate, like your teammates when you're looking at you, what do you want them to say? It's like he competed. He brought the best out of the team because when you do compete, you're actually raising the levels of everybody, right? So there's nothing worse than having a practice and let's say you're doing a small area game or whatever drill it is, right? And if you're not going really, really hard, you're not making other people's better, right? So you want to make sure that you get that compete level high so that your team as a whole gets better. So, I think the more guys that are a high compete brings the lower level guys or the guys that aren't there yet, it raises it. Whereas if you get if you get Connor McDavid, let's say, or one of the high end guys in the NHL, when they come to practice and they don't compete that hard, they're not helping anybody, right? So the higher that you can see someone compete, the better it is for the team. So you want that. That'd be definitely a compliment. And with compete, I also mean like second, third effort type of a guy. So I've used that term a lot. Um, it's the guy that there's that no quit in him. And I think that's really important too. So, the opposite of that would be a guy that kind of just shows up and hopes for the best and just looks like he's working hard, and that's a frustrating guy.
Yeah. I'm thinking of a play. It was just from the other night. Pittsburgh was playing. I don't remember who. Crosby on the forecheck strips a puck, turns it around. They end up scoring on the play. Like, here's a guy that's coming on the tail end of his career now. He could float his way off into the sunset, man. This guy doesn't have to work one more day if he doesn't want to. And he's just got it. He's just got that thing. And that he's a great example of that, obviously. It's like that's a guy that people will remember for that exact thing. And there's a I don't know if you wrote this down later, you can tell me, but there's an idea like coaches talk about buy-in, like getting buy-in from the players. And this kind of goes to that because I remember playing and it'd be practice and you get some of your better players that are not engaged because they don't have to be or they don't care. And they're those kind of guys that just are that good, maybe, where they don't have to care, and how that's damaging to the team. It's damaging to yourself, too, personally, because that's what people will say about you. People won't want to see you succeed. People won't want to see you do well. You're the type of person that they are going to be mad about doing well. They'll be happy when you fail because you're that guy that was always yapping or was not participating in the same way as everybody else or just did their own thing and was on their own page. And so I think it's a big responsibility as the elite guy, if you are that, to make sure that you're still having that buy-in, as we say, whether that's the bag skate or the hard practice where it's a lot of back checking or skating or whatever small area games. It's really important. Yeah, in the gym. Oh yeah.
Any competitive thing, right? You're pushing. I said it goes a long way when you've always heard this about Sidney Crosby. I just talked to my son about that a couple of weeks ago about how hard this guy works. So we're talking about his career, and I said like, you got to remember when you get people think guys in junior, guys in college think they work hard, right? And then the eye openers when they get to pro and they see Sidney Crosby working harder than anyone. It's like, well, how do you can't.
Who was, you've told me this story before. I don't know if it was it Chris Draper talking about Yzerman in the dressing room, or who was it that they showed up? They said, I'm going to get somewhere early to, I don't remember. Yeah. Or maybe it was a basketball example.
No. It was Drapes. I think he even said it on our podcast.
He said I was going to be there an hour early to make sure
there early, and he saw Yzerman and a couple guys.
They're finishing their workout.
They're finishing their bike ride, and he goes, "Oh, okay, these guys are like they're working."
Yeah,
and that's the thing, right? That's the thing. So and the opposite of that is, I mean, so I was talking to my kid about that. Is it's like when you think you're working hard, are you? Then you'll see. And I'm not saying does or doesn't, but when you become a professional, like how you take the best guy in the world for a long period of time, and he still outworks most people. It's like it's not fair,
Yeah, like
right? You know what I mean?
well, you lose track of how hyper selective that group of NHL players, and like, do you know how small the percentage is? So what do those players have to have in common to have earned their way there? You know, and I think there's only two things. It's either in isolation or a combination of the two. Either the guy's just really really good, and he's so much better that he can just make it because he's that good, or they are like a competitor. They compete like hell, and even though maybe they're not the best from a skill perspective, they compete like hell, or it's a combination of those two things. Like that's everyone
And
that
when
you're
you
gonna
get the
find.
Sidney Crosby, the best in the world, that compete like hell and
Right.
works
Yeah,
harder
the
than everybody,
superstar.
that's like you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
You like think of how few all the people that play hockey around the world,
Yeah.
and what is there 900 in the NHL?
Yeah,
Something like that,
roughly.
1,000.
Yeah, roughly.
It's
No,
like
900.
that's not a lot, man.
No.
It's not a lot. So
Mhm.
there's got to be something special in
Yeah.
that crop. So when you think you're at that level, are you? It's a good question.
Yeah. So the opposite of that is just like I don't really compete, kind of lazy,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
Showed up when he wanted.